The Indianapolis Colts' 2025 schedule is official. So, which games stand out the most? Can the Colts finally, for the first time in a decade, control their division? And what record do you, the fans, think Indy finishes with? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast, as always presented by Indianapolis Colts on SI. My name is Drake Wally, deputy editor for the website and co-host of the show. And of course, I'm joined by none other than Noah Gebert, analyst for the site and fellow co-host of the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast. Noah, it's finally time to talk about this schedule. And, it's really funny because the NBA, they don't really care about schedule releases. The MLB, no league that I know of really makes a big, to do about little things like this, like what opponents you're going to face, when you're going to face them like this. But hey, this gives us an opportunity with the fans here. We want you guys to put in there who you think is going to win each one of these, because me and Noah, we're each going to give our prediction all the way down to a final division record and overall record. But good to see you, man. How's your week been, and what do you make of this schedule here?
Yeah, it's been good, man. The schedule release is a little weird. I think people are back and forth on it, right? Because we've known the home and away opponents for the Colts for this upcoming season for a while, so it's not like we're getting a ton of new info with the schedule release, other than this is the order it's going to happen. This is when the bye week is. Number of primetime games is something I look out for every year. So yeah, we've known what these opponents are going to look like this upcoming season, but we finally get to go week by week and take a look at it. And I know these predictions are maybe a little bit too early before we even get into training camp. Not all the moves have been made and everything like that, but good to. I feel like every couple weeks we have this episode where we're taking stock of the current situation of the Colts and how we think things are at. I think that's kind of what this record prediction is going to be, in line with the release of the schedule. Is we can take a look at what we actually project things to be looking like outside of any moves that might be made in the future, outside of any developments that we're going to see with the quarterback competition or injuries or all that stuff that's going to happen during training camp in the preseason. There's so many variables that are going to happen, but this is a good time to take a look at where we're at and what we're thinking.
Yeah, and it doesn't let me pull it back up, but Truett, I did see your super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat before the episode even starts. As always, such a loyal follower of this show. There it is. Yeah, so Noah's got access to that. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this schedule. I remember doing, and I'm pretty much just going to carbon copy it because I believe what I was doing on Bleacher Report on Wednesday. But I had to do a schedule release show, and it's so difficult to give even a prediction on these games because so much can change. You could have a guy cut, you could have a guy added, but in this moment, we are going to make a prediction based off of the rosters these teams have right now. And also, before we even get this going, and I'm sure we didn't talk about this, Noah, but I'm sure that you're going to be in agreement. We're not going to factor in this quarterback competition. All right. Yeah. We're not going to be like, well, Jones is going to play here, Richardson's going to play here. This is fully expecting Anthony Richardson to play all 17 games. Now, I know that's not realistic, but we're going to go ahead and move forward like that's the case. So without further ado, we're just going to jump into it because we have 60 minutes to cover 17 games.
Yeah.
And we're each going to be giving a prediction. Noah's going to keep track of everything on the side there. So this first one here is an interesting way to kick off the NFL season, and that's against the Miami Dolphins. Now, before we even start here, the Colts decided to have some fun with their schedule release video on X, mocking Tyreek Hill as a Dolphin getting pulled over by the Coast Guard. So already maybe a little bit of juice has been added to that matchup. But this is a football team the Colts beat last year, but they beat them with Tyler Huntley and Tim freaking Boyle, as the quarterbacks. And they didn't really beat him by very much. So what do you make of this matchup? You're going to be seeing Tua Tagovailoa this time, which is going to amplify that offense. But you are facing now a Lou Anarumo defense.
Yeah, it's going to look a lot different than it looked last year with Tyler Huntley, where they're just kind of trying to put together what they can for the offense. This is, I know there's a lot of mixed opinions about how the Dolphins have been run and kind of their style of offense when it first started, when this regime first took over, was exciting because it's all this speed and everything like that. I think this is the first time where they needed to eat their vegetables this offseason and get some beef up front and Just kind of go away from that identity of just being a finesse team and add some power to the team. But still, I mean, they've got that crazy speed on the outside that these corners, we're going to have to see how they match up. Charvarius Ward's good to bring in that sense. I think he's going to be a guy that's, I mean, you've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, which are two bona fide number ones. So it's really even hard to justify having him shadow Tyreek Hill in this situation. I think that's going to be the first thing that I'm going to be looking at is how do you handle a team that has two legitimate number one threats at wideout? Because if you're shadowing Tyreek Hill, that's going to put Jalen Waddle. Uh, I mean, he's a guy that lines up in the slot a lot, but a guy that lines up on the outside as well. So do you have Kenny Moore and Jalen Jones just kind of splitting time on him? I'm not sure how they're going to approach that in the offensive weapons that the Dolphins have. But yeah, I mean, overall, it is a similar unit to the team that you faced this past season and came away with the win. Just how they play with Tua at quarterback versus how they play with anybody else at quarterback has been a night and day difference. So I think you're going to get the Dolphins' best shot here in Week 1 without really much time for things to go awry with Tua in terms of the health that he has. So at the same time, you're also battling that Week 1 curse that the Colts have had, not being able to get that win. So you're going to be playing a team that, yeah, you beat recently this past season, but a team who's at full strength with their quarterback and then still fighting that Week 1 curse. That's going to be difficult, and it's a home game for the Colts, so I think that a little bit to their advantage in that sense. But yeah, I don't know if you want to give your prediction on the actual win or loss there, or you just want to give your thoughts on the matchup in general. But I'll wait till you give your win or loss before I give mine, just so I can cheat a little bit.
Yeah, of course. No. So this is an incredibly deadly wide receiver duo. Now, the backfield can't be slept on here. You've got Devon A. Shane, you've got Jalen Wright, you've got Alexander Madison, and then you've got Ollie Gordon II. Those are four guys that, I mean, that you will be able to constantly keep that backfield
Yep.
fresh. Okay, and last year the Colts had the ability to just zone in on the running game. They're not going to be able to do that now because now Tua is sometimes great, sometimes he's hilariously bad. But like it's just going to be one of those things where it's going to be all about how do they quell, and you can't forget about Jonnu Smith, who had a
Mm-hmm.
good season. There's a
Yep.
reason that the Dolphins didn't need a tight end. It's because Jonnu Smith's the guy now, and you've got a complete team here offensively. The defense, we'll see. Jalen Ramsey's looking for a trade, but I personally, I'll go ahead and give my prediction until. Dude, until the Colts actually show me they win Week 1, I don't care if it's a trash can. I won't forget ever when I still keeps me up at night with a cold sweat thinking about this game. But
Yep.
2020, when the freaking Jaguars with old Minshew the second, they had one win all season, just one, and it was against the Colts in the opening game. So I have Indy losing this one.
Yeah.
I think that they also are facing a team. I think for Lou Anarumo's first game as the coordinator, I think that it could be difficult. I think that this is a pretty difficult matchup for a brand new
Yeah.
coordinator, and just any team can have problems with this football team.
Yeah, I think just naturally, if you're defensive coordinator, first year, Week 1, going up against an offensive system and personnel that have been in place for years, you're already operating at a disadvantage in that sense, just based off of experience with your guys. Yeah, and then coming off Week 1, just historically, I think you kind of said it there until they prove they can come out to start a season
Yeah.
uh, on the right foot, then I don't really expect them to at this point. And this is a stronger opponent than I think you've had in years past coming into Week 1. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the L here. Also, I think it'll be close. I think it'll be fun to watch. I'm super
Sure.
interested just because of the new defensive scheme, how everybody matches up. I do want to see that Charvarius Ward matchup on Hill or Waddle or however they try to use that. And then I also want to see Cam Bynum and Nick Cross trying to take care of Jonnu Smith, or maybe they mix some Jalen Carlies in there on Jonnu Smith and a talented tight end, because I think that'll kind of set the tone for what we're expecting to see with the defense for the rest of the season.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting, but yeah, we're both kind of on the same line of thinking there. And then we did have Matthew Sundberg here with the $2 super chat. Can we run back the 1v1v1v1 across the AFC South? Man, if there was ever a year where the Colts, and we'll get into it, but if there was ever a year where they have a shot at taking that division, it's this year.
Yeah.
Okay, because the Texans showed last year they're not necessarily this otherworldly team. They are exploitable. You can beat them. And the Colts lost to the Texans in both games by a combined total of 5 freaking points.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they got their asses kicked. You know, I mean, the Colts were very much in those games, and in one of them, Anthony Richardson just completed like 33% of his passes, which jury's still out on old number 5, but we'll have to see. And then, of course, if the Colts, this is from Drew, if the Colts can't beat the Dolphins at home, they aren't making the playoffs. That's for sure. Hey, man, Dolphins are a tough football team. They're not an easy football team to beat. Anybody can lose to them, but the Dolphins also, because of Tua and his inconsistency, they can also not show up. So we'll have to see. I think it's still going to be a difficult matchup for those corners in their first game under Andrew Remo. But this next one, we're jumping right into it. This is kind of another team that they faced last year, and they actually forced a lot of turnovers. That's the Denver Broncos. Now, this one is, if I'm not mistaken, this one's also at home, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, yeah, and we'll preface all that as we announce these. So this is Bo Nix. He threw 3 interceptions against the Broncos last year. Of course, Richardson had himself an even worse game, and the Broncos ended up winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this AFC West matchup? I mean, there's sophomore slumps, but honestly, I'm very high on Bo Nix. I was high on him when they drafted him. I think he's got just so much unbelievable talent and probably a good future in the league. But what are your thoughts here against Sean Payton?
Yeah, there's definitely such a thing as sophomore slump. We saw it with C.J. Stroud last year, so maybe Bo Nix comes back down to earth a little bit, just in terms of production. I'm not sure he's not otherworldly and elevating an offense, but he's operating the offense really efficiently, or he was last year. So I expect that to continue. I don't expect it to be as big of a slump as we saw with C.J. Stroud, because I think C.J. Stroud in his rookie year was kind of carrying the team based off of just heroic plays and operating well within the offense. And I don't think Bo Nix has had as much of the Superman plays. So that kind of makes it a little less volatile going into year 2. So you expect him to keep continuing to run that offense well. Sean Payton, obviously, very talented offensive mind who's had great offenses for his entire career. So I expect that to be a fun match. I also think that the secondary for the Denver Broncos is so good, and with a team that's already struggling to pass the ball in the Colts, I think that's just going to make their offense entirely one-dimensional this game. But I think up front, I think the Colts do have they can match up pretty well against the Denver Broncos here and get the run game going inside and outside. So yeah, I think it'll turn into a relatively low-scoring game if I had to guess, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of fireworks in the passing game on either side. I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and go first on this one if we're going back and forth, and I'll predict the win here. I think the running offense is gonna take over here. They're gonna be one dimensional, but I think they're gonna expect that going in. They're gonna have a really good game plan running the football, and I think you're early in the season. You've got Anthony Richardson fresh. You've got Jonathan Taylor fresh. You should be able to take advantage and create some running lanes there.
Yeah, and again, last year the Colts defense under Gus Bradley had Bo Nix in a bag, man. That he just kept throwing picks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now you have a guy like Lou Anarumo who's going to throw the freaking kitchen sink at this kid. All right, he's going to drop guys back off the line in coverage and blitz linebackers instead, and he's going to put guys. He's going to have additional cornerbacks and additional safeties and stuff. He's just going to try to really confuse Bo Nix, maybe quarter by quarter. This is one where I am going to switch my initial prediction on Bleacher Report. I will also take a win here because I do really respect a good old-fashioned ground and pound attack. And I think that as long as Richardson doesn't turn over the ball, which will be critical on the show, it's the NFL. He hasn't really shown that he can't do that. But if he can, like he did against the Jets, if he can actually expose a defense and get that ground game going, we'll have to see. But I do think that they're going to win this game. And like Noah said, I agree that it's going to be a little bit more low scoring. But that running back room for the Broncos is led by R.J. Harvey right now. I mean, you've got Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, Tyler Beatty. I mean, not really anybody that is going to threaten you. Maybe R.J. Harvey breaks out, but for you to take a guy, a rookie running back that isn't named Ashton Genty, and put him in the starting fray, I mean, that really shows the lack of depth. So we'll see. We'll see. But that's going to be a good matchup. Do you have something to say?
No, I think we should probably get moving on to week 3 here. We're sitting at
Yeah,
15 minutes into 2
we're
weeks. So
well. Luckily, we've got 6 games with two of the same, or
yeah,
3 games
yeah.
with two of the same opponent. So this next one is at Tennessee.
Mhm.
So this is a little interesting. It's hard to project what a rookie quarterback is going to
Yeah.
do, but Lou Anarumo's scheme is probably going to confuse a rookie quarterback. I would
Mhm.
just assume that the Titans still have so long to go before they have a competent, I guess, offense. Who knows? Maybe Cam Ward lights it up like Jaden Daniels
Yeah.
did. But what are your thoughts on the Titans Colts? Of course, the Colts swept the Titans last season.
Yeah, and I think that maybe that should be the expectation this year if you're the Colts going in, that you should handle the business here, because the other divisional games are probably going to be a little bit tougher. Usually, I mean, I'll just err on the side of it's week 3 in Cam Ward's rookie season. I don't expect him to be playing his best football at that point in the season. I guess it's kind of lucky then that the Colts get him. It looks like week 3 and week 8, so all before their bye, they get both their matchups against Cam Ward, which I think is going to be beneficial before he really gets his feet under him. I kind of like some of the additions that Tennessee made in the offseason. I think Tyler Lockett's a super underrated addition to that offense. So I think they'll be better than they were last year. I think they kind of have to be. They're not going to have that up and down of Will Levis that they had. Cam Ward's still going to make some boneheaded plays, but he's gonna make more of those big time plays that Will Levis wasn't making to offset those turnover worthy plays. So I think they'll be interesting to watch, the Tennessee Titans. I like that this is the first away game for the Colts. They go home the first 2 weeks, and then their away game they get the team that had the number 1 pick this past season. So I think that's a relatively easy stretch to start the season. First divisional game. I'll take the W here for the Colts also.
Yeah, and I've got it. So they start out 1-0 in the division, and that's as good as you can. And hey, don't forget, a lot of their divisional games are backloaded, and we'll see that. Most of them are definitely in the second half of the season. But this next one is really interesting because the Colts are one of those teams that probably shouldn't beat certain teams that they play, but then they also should beat certain teams they play and lose to them.
Yeah.
And we've got the Los Angeles Rams here. Now, the Rams, Matt Stafford, doesn't need any introduction. Absolutely phenomenal quarterback. And they don't have Cooper Kupp, but you have Puka Nacua. You still have Tyler Higbee. You still have Kyron Williams. You still have what seems like, even without Aaron Donald, an always stout defense.
Mhm.
Now you got Braden Fisk. Now you've got Jared Verse. Tell me just in brief about this matchup. You have your first cross-conference matchup with a team that the Colts actually didn't see too long ago.
Yeah, and this is like the first high tier quarterback that they're playing, right? There's arguments about Tua, whatever. Bo Nix is his second year in the league, so it's hard to say. Cam Ward, his 3rd game in the NFL, they'll be playing him. This is their first game against a high level quarterback in Matthew Stafford, who, like you mentioned, does have Puka Nacua. Devontae Adams came in this offseason.
Yes,
they're going to have their work cut out for them. Those are two really savvy. Like, maybe they're not at this point in Devontae Adams' career, not the super athletic type. Puka Nacua's athletic, but not going to like blow you away with his speed. But guys that read the field well and separate really well. So that's going to be the first big challenge, I think, for Lou Anarumo's defense this year. But this one's probably a little bit rough. It's a little worse also that it's away at Los Angeles. You don't have your home field advantage here in week 4. This one's going to be, I think, a tougher matchup. You have a winner or a loss here.
This is one of those games that on paper they shouldn't win, but I have them winning this game.
Yeah.
Just because I don't even have a reason.
Right,
it's just because I mean, when Anthony Richardson played the Rams last time, it was a rookie season, right? But he did pretty damn well. He led the team he led the team in a comeback to overtime. If he can just improve a little bit, I mean, he can give any team fits, and he's almost impossible to sack. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Colts here in a game that doesn't look like they should win on paper. What about you?
I'll just read the paper right there and say, it doesn't look like they should win. I don't think they're gonna come away with a win against the Rams here. I think another interesting storyline that we didn't mention is going to be the Jared Verse versus Latu hype there. Those two defensive ends, Latu being the first defensive player taken off the board, and then Verse leading all rookies in sacks and pressures. So Yeah, I think that'll be fun to watch them develop into year two here. Maybe hopefully, even if they do come away with a loss, that Latu gets a couple sacks. You feel a little bit better about that decision that the Colts made there on the edge.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and highlight Paul's super chat. Thank you so much. I will not give my win loss prediction today. You are also positive, including the chat. Keep up the great work, fellas. Thank you so much, and we try to be. But don't worry. By the end of this record prediction, I'm sure that it'll seem way more realistic. It's just the Colts are such a difficult team to project anything for. But this next one is interesting because now you have a new quarterback, you have a new coach. Obviously, the coach helped the quarterback in their previous destination.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Las Vegas Raiders. Now you have Geno Smith. Okay, you don't have Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah.
You don't have Gardner Minshew. You don't have some kind of freakish situation with the quarterback. You have Ashton Genty now. You do have Brock Bowers to deal with, who tore up defenses last year. Tell me a little bit about this matchup because this one's really intriguing. Now, is this one at LV or?
This one's at home, so this is a Colts
Okay.
home game.
Yes.
They've got home, away, home in the first
Okay.
6 games. So
Nice. Well, what do you think of this one here?
yeah, I think just like we mentioned with Latu and Verse there, this is going to be fun because it's the Brock Bowers versus Tyler Warren, and you're not expecting Tyler Warren to get that kind of just peppered with the amount of targets that Brock Bowers got this past season and will probably continue to get this upcoming season, just because that receiving core. I know you've got Geno Smith, you've got Ashton Genty, you've got upgrades on that offense, but the receiving core, Jack Betch is starting out on the outside, pretty much undisputed being a starter out there, which is kind of the situation I feel like that they wanted the Colts with A.D. Mitchell, and then Alec Pierce actually came in, held on to that starting spot. On the Raiders, I don't see anybody holding on to that starting spot or to keep that away from Jack Betch. This is going to be a team that runs the ball a lot and throws the ball short. So you're going to need guys to come up and make tackles in a hurry. Just hope that the defensive line is holding up at this point because this is going to be a Geno Smith, a quarterback who's in Seattle, was just asked to do a ton. And make a ton of plays, where he goes into this situation where this seems like this is kind of the offense that you would want a rookie quarterback to be in, or kind of offense that you think Anthony Richardson would strive or thrive in, because it's these quick reads, a lot of running. So I think that they're going to see a little bit of a mirror image of themselves in terms of the offensive side of the ball. But yeah, I think they should come away with the win in this one here at home.
Yeah, I've got them winning this one too. So far, I'm at 4-1 with 1-0 in the division. Where are you at?
That puts me at 3-2.
Okay,
yeah, still just one division game. We both had them winning against the Titans. So
yeah, so not really too far off here. This next one is interesting because we're actually talking about Shane Steichen versus Jonathan Gannon, and they were both obviously the coordinators for the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles team. It earned them both head coaching positions. This one, Kyler Murray is as hot and cold as you can get. Most of the time, though, during the regular season anyway, he does play pretty well. So you got Richardson versus Murray here. You got an offensive mind versus a defensive mind. Tell me a little bit about this one because you've got only your second. There's not too many, but you've got your second cross-conference battle here with two guys that know each other very, very well.
Yeah, and outside of Cam Ward, this is like your most mobile guy that you're going to be going up against in Kyler Murray. And I think the Colts have historically struggled with mobile quarterbacks, but I guess the first year under Lou Anarumo, you got to see if that's a little bit different. You got to just rely on your edge guys to be disciplined and maintain the edge. Kwity Paye, Latu, Samson Ebukam, these guys got to maintain the integrity of their pass rush lanes and not get too far outside. You want a good push on the inside, so you hope here we're getting to week 6, so you're actually getting to some meaty part of the season. So you're hoping that Grover Stewart and Forrest Buckner are still full strength on the inside to provide some push. Otherwise, Kyler Murray's going to find those lanes in the interior to take advantage of you. So yeah, as long as the depth is holding up there, I think on the defensive line you should be all right. If you're having to rotate Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, they're missing any bit of time. Just the way that the depth chart looks for the Colts right now, I really worry about the interior of the defense there and how Kyler's going to be able to dissect you there. You want that interior push with a quarterback that's as short as Kyler Murray. Really get in his face so he can't throw over the middle and contain him on the outside. This is all going to come down to that defensive line matchup for the Colts against that offensive line. But at the end of the day, I think Kyler Murray's too good of a quarterback and the type of quarterback that the Colts that have historically struggled against. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals here.
Yeah, me too. This is one of those games where I think Kyler Murray is honestly going to be a problem.
Mhm.
And he's one of those quarterbacks. I mean, there's certain game tape where this guy runs around like he's a gnat flying across your house. I mean, he wears the crap out of defenses. So go ahead and give me the Cardinals here too. So Noah's got the Colts at 3-3 right now, and I'll have them at 4-2. So this next one is interesting because it's a team that I don't think they hit their stride like they should have last season, but
Yeah.
give it time, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, this one is in LA, and the Colts, are going to have to go over there. Jim Harbaugh loves to run the football. Okay,
Mhm.
now you have Omarion Hampton, you have
Yeah.
Najee Harris. That's a totally revamped
Yeah.
backfield. What do you think about this matchup? Because honestly, this is just one of those where as soon as I saw it on the schedule, I was like, oof, I don't know about that one.
Yeah. I think you hope your offense is playing well and able to take advantage of the defense, because I think the defense is the weak side of the group there in Los Angeles this upcoming season. Yeah, Omari and Hampton, Najee Harris, that running back room's completely different and going to be able to take advantage of the heavy run scheme that Harbaugh likes to play. And then outside at receiver, you don't just have Lad McConkey anymore. They brought back Mike Williams after his adventures elsewhere. Then second round pick and Trey Harris at receiver. So a little bit more firepower on the outside. And then, yeah, I think you've got maybe probably top three of offensive tackle pairing in the NFL right now in Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater. So I think this offense is going to be smoothly running. And yeah, I think it's going to give that Colts defense some trouble here.
Yeah, and I know that they don't have Joey Bosa anymore, but he hasn't been himself for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a game where I don't think that they got it. I think the Colts are going to lose this one.
Mm-hmm.
Are you along the same line of
I
thinking?
am.
Yeah, that's a tough one because this is a team that they're going to run the ball plenty, but
Yeah.
honestly, Justin Herbert, he really is a damn good quarterback. I
Yeah.
know that he hasn't had this insane success, but he's a damn good quarterback.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. He's definitely a top. At times, can play top 10.
He is, and yet this is just one more season with Jim Harbaugh getting the personnel that he wants to run the actual scheme that he wants. The signings of Najee Harris and Tyler Conklin blocking tight end, and then the drafting of Omari and Hampton. It's very clear what they're trying to do there. And yeah, just filling out into what they're intended to be. I know, yeah, last season was a little bit disappointing for the Chargers, but I think the vision's a little bit more in place than it was.
Yeah, and they also have Mekhi Becton that they picked up, so they definitely are not going to shy away from running the football. This next one, we're going right back to the Tennessee Titans. This one's at home. I think that we're both in agreement that unless Cam Ward just absolutely rips the league apart, he still doesn't have the most stable offensive line.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I believe they still have Tony Pollard is in the backfield, correct? Or am I crazy? I think that he's still, and yeah, I think that they're going to need to run the football with Cam Ward. I just don't think that the Colts are going to lose at all to the Titans. So
Yeah.
this one's pretty quick. I like this matchup. I think that they're going to take both of these games. What are your thoughts on this? I've got to move into 2-0 in the division here.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. It's risky to say that, right? Because I feel like sweeping somebody in the division isn't as common as we make it seem like
It's hard.
it is.
Yeah.
I know the Titans were picking first in the draft. They had the worst record in the league, but it's not like the Colts were Super Bowl contenders. There's not that huge of a drop off in between the two teams in terms of talent level. That's all going to depend on really Cam Ward and Anthony Richardson in both of these matchups here. I think the volatility for what they could be, like the highs are so high and the lows are so low for what they could be this entire season. And then the rest of the rosters are honestly pretty similar. So you've got these two teams that are going to be struggling with young quarterbacks and trying to find their footing. But yeah, I think overall the Colts should be able to pull this one out at home against the Titans. So that would be 2-0 in the division. That'd be me moving them up to 4-4.
Yeah, and hey, that sounds like a very Colts type of record when it comes to week 8, 4-4. So this next one is going to be week 9. We're only a few weeks before the bye.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, now they're going to be at Pittsburgh. The Colts have won the last 2 matchups with the Steelers. Before that, they couldn't win any of the matchups with the Steelers. And I'm actually pulling it up right now, but their quarterback situation is an absolute
Yeah.
mess right now. You're hearing Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers. Well, right now it's Mason Rudolph is your top guy. Will Howard is a sixth round pick. And then you got Skylar Thompson, who, if you're in trouble, if you're
Yep.
starting Skylar Thompson. So tell me a little bit about this matchup. You do have DK Metcalf. You do have Robert Woods. You still have Pat Fryermuth, and they've got some guys that are on the offensive line. Of course, the defense is always the highlight of this football team. But, man, that quarterback
Yeah.
situation is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, and this is at Pittsburgh. TJ Watt has been shut down by Braden Smith in the past. This is a
Oh,
team
yeah.
I know with the current quarterback situation, the current depth chart that the Steelers have, I don't think this should be an issue for the Colts at all. Also, very much so the type of game that the Colts go into and play down to their level of competition. Historically, in the past, the Colts defense has done that going up against quarterbacks like Mason Rudolph. So you worry about that a little bit. But whether it's Mason Rudolph, whether it's Aaron Rodgers coming out, I think that Colts have the overall advantage in talent there. DK Metcalf is a new addition that'll be fun to watch, but you got to know who's getting him the ball. I think if you get Aaron Rodgers, who likes to chuck it deep to guys like that, that could be a little bit fun. But yeah, I don't think that the Steelers should give the Colts too much trouble, and regardless of who their quarterback ends up being at the start of the season, they should be able to handle this one.
Yeah, I've got them winning this one for their third straight victory in 3 years over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don, I'm not sure if they beat the brakes off of him. Pittsburgh is a team that just typically under Mike Tomlin. I mean, you got to think he's taken these freaking broken wagon teams and still always gets them to 9 wins at least. I mean, he's a great coach, but we'll see because right now that quarterback situation it's like one of the worst in the NFL, plain and simple. So, but this next one, man, this one is overseas. This one's in Germany, and the
Yeah,
last time the Colts played the Falcons, it's hilarious that Noah mentioned this about backup quarterbacks or like journeyman quarterbacks because the Colts lost to Jake Browning. All right, in 2023, they also lost to Tyke Taylor Heineke in 2023. I mean, they kind of got the crap beat out of them on
yeah,
Christmas Eve. Yeah, and this is the Atlanta Falcons, so it's no more Kirky Cousins in town. It's no Taylor Heineke. Now you're talking about it's Michael Penix Jr. season, and this is overseas. Last time the Colts played overseas, they beat the Patriots 10-6, and so this is an interesting matchup because the Falcons do have playmakers,
yeah.
and they did bolster that defense right through the draft, guys like Pierce Jr. and all that. What are your thoughts on this matchup? It's overseas, and while the Colts are the home team, there really isn't necessarily a home team,
Yeah.
but it could be an interesting matchup. And honestly, this one's a little bit of a toss up for me.
Yeah, I like the Jesse Bates matchup here with with Lou Anarumo and the guy that kind of made that whole defensive scheme successful for Lou Anarumo in the past. I just kind of like seeing that go up against his former guy, and then maybe Cam Bynum can show out in this game and show that he's the next on Lou Anarumo's list to take hold of this defense. Offensively, Michael Penix is going to be hard to project. Kirk Cousins is. I don't know if he's even going to be on the roster at this point or if he's going to be getting any playing time. If Penix is struggling,
Shouldn't
we
be.
don't really know
Yeah.
what the plan is there. But yeah, I think this is one the Colts should handle. Also, Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr. are two guys that I like. They've struggled with the pass rush for so much that they went hard and drafted two guys in the first round to try to help their pass rush. But I think a guy with the profile like James Pierce Jr. has, one of those tall, wiry guys, I think he needs to add some play strength before he's really an impact pass rusher at the next level. So I think here in his rookie season, you're not going to get a ton of production out of him. Jalen Walker, also kind of a tweener guy, not sure where he fits. So I think he might take some time to find his footing in the NFL. So those two first round pass rushers that they have I don't think are going to have the impact that the Falcons are really hoping for them to have in year one. I do like AJ Terrell. I like Mike Hughes. I like their corners, but I think that the Colts should be able to handle this one also.
Yeah, so I've got them losing this one just
Okay.
because it's very similar to the last one where I didn't really have any reason for them to lose to the I think it was the Las Vegas Raiders, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, it wasn't the Raiders. It was the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah. So
Mhm.
it's just one of those. It's one of those games. So I've got them falling to 6-4. Noah, hold down the fort real quick. My laptop is on low power, and we cannot have this stream ending. So go
Perfect.
ahead and move on to the next week.
Yeah, I like that. I like that he went ahead and gave me the mic here. Week 11, we're coming up with the bye week, which is perfect to represent Drake going to grab his laptop charger there. Week 11, kind of. I think it's a really good spot for the bye here. I don't think you want it too early in the season. The Colts have definitely had issues having the bye week too late in the season. A lot of players have voiced their frustrations with having the bye so late. But honestly, getting a chance to get healthy before you start to make your playoff push is a huge advantage. In both me and Drake's predictions at this point, we have them both at 6-4. Going into the bye at week 11, I think you'd be really happy to be sitting there at 6-4 with still 6 division games coming up. Wait, no, 4, not 6, 4 division games coming up. Both of them against the Texans and both of them against the Jaguars. So yeah, this gives you a chance to get right before you have some major linchpins in your season coming up on the schedule.
Yeah, and this is a perfect time to have a bye. I mean, at week
Mhm.
11, you really can't ask for anything better than that. So I think that if you are the Colts, you're happy with this. You're happy with a week 11 bye, especially given the opponent that's following, and that is going to be the reigning Super Bowl runner-ups, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, we all know that Swizzles will be there, representing Travis Kelsey. So this one, fun fact: Patrick Mahomes lost to the Indianapolis Colts in
Yeah.
2019 with Jacoby Brissett. Followed that up. That was a 7-10. Yeah, it was a 7-10 team, and then he lost to the 4-12-1 Matt Ryan led Colts. So Patrick Mahomes is winless against the Indianapolis Colts in his career. Tell me a little bit about this matchup. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has also had
Yeah.
immense struggles with Lou Anarumo's scheme. I mean, last time they played the Bengals, he really struggled. I mean, really
Yeah.
struggled to understand what Anarumo was doing.
Yeah, I think that might be the case again. But I do think that streak is broken there, and I think Patrick Mahomes does get his win against the Colts. At this point, I mean, even if they struggle offensively, the Kansas City Chiefs to score points, I think that the Colts are going to struggle just as much and probably more to score against the Kansas City Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Man, you're sitting here at week 12. You're hoping Anthony Richardson's still healthy, Jonathan Taylor's still healthy. You'd wonder how much mileage you're getting on those guys. This is when you're hoping that DJ Giddens has gotten plenty of run up to this point in the season, so you're saving some of the tread on the tires for Jonathan Taylor to be able to carry you through this what would be a playoff push in this scenario. But ultimately, I don't think they have the offensive firepower that it takes to get it done against the Chiefs, even if Lou Anarumo is able to stifle them a little bit.
Yeah, I originally on Bleacher Report had them beating the Chiefs, but after thinking about it a little more, Richardson. I mean that Spagnuolo defense is horrifying to face. I mean they blitz. They've got Chris Jones. They've got a lot of talent. They're able to really cause a lot of issues for
Yep.
teams. And Trent McDuffie is fantastic. So we'll see it. That one's going to be all dependent on the quarterback because Chris Jones is a absolute freak monster type football player. So this next one, you're going to get your first visuals of the Houston Texans. Now,
Mhm.
at
Yeah.
this point, who knows what the Texans look like? I'm sure Stroud's going to be fine. Richardson and the Colts lost both games last season to the Texans, but excuse me, again, they only lost by 5 total points. So tell me a little bit about this one because you've got the reigning AFC South champions
Yeah.
who really didn't win the division by as much as you'd think, and the division is legitimately wide open for the taking. So this is the first time they meet. It's in Indianapolis.
Yeah, and there was a huge emphasis for the Texans in going out and getting some more weapons for C.J. Stroud. Both the Iowa State receivers and Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel drafted. Ariante Ursary, the tackle, was also drafted, just trying to get some help and solidify and kind of stop that free fall that happened after that incredible rookie year that C.J. Stroud had, and then that sophomore slump. So they're really putting their focus into trying to maintain C.J. Stroud's level of play and get it back to more what it was this rookie season. I think this is interesting just schedule wise, having both Texans games, both Jaguars games after week 13. Week 13 to week 18, you get 4 of your divisional games against divisional opponents you haven't faced at this point this year. And as we get further into the season, we're here in week 13. There's going to be so many variables, so many questions that we have to answer, and everything that's going to be going on with, like you mentioned at the top of the show, the quarterback situation, how that's going to be, all the health of these veteran guys. Because as we mentioned these past couple episodes, when we went over these position groups, there's some position groups that are kind of strong on this Colts defense, but as soon as you scratch beneath the surface a little bit and one guy misses some time, you're really worried about the depth. And that does worry me here at the end of the season with the Colts, is you're going to have to rely on some of your depth pieces at some of these positions. Maybe it's not going to be at running back. Maybe Jonathan Taylor's still a full force, but you're probably going to have to lean a little bit more heavily on your defensive tackles to rotate a little bit more. At this point, you're wondering what your linebacker room's looking like and how Jalen Carlisle's season has ended up going, because you don't really have a lot of depth beyond Zaire and him at the linebacker position. I think they're a little bit thin, so that does have me worried. And I do think that here with Lou Anarumo seeing this Texans offense for the first time with the Colts, I think they're going to struggle a little bit, and I think the Texans do pull this one out here.
I think the Colts win this one.
Okay.
Actually,
yeah.
So we're getting this is really good. I'm really excited that we're differing on so many of these. It's going to be interesting, but the running offense, two things. The running offense it's produced issues for the Texans, and actually it's been Richardson's wild inaccuracy that has been such a big issue. Last season, of course, you've got 9 for 19 in the first game. He had that gorgeous pass to Alec Pierce, but outside of that, that's just unacceptable. And then the second one, I believe that's the game he tapped himself out of. I can't remember what game that was, but regardless, he was like 35%. Okay. And they still only lost those games by single digits. And so I do think the Colts are going to get this one, but it's also that offensive line for the Texans is still suspect. And a guy like Anarumo, I just think there's ways that he could tear holes through that. So we'll see, but I got the Colts going to 3-0 in the division here. And yeah, Al Val, it would be nice.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get another linebacker in that room, because you sure as hell are not counting on Hunter Wohler to do that. In fact, I'm pretty sure they've got him as a safety. So this next one, it's a place where the Colts like to fall into the abyss, and that is Jacksonville. So you've got Trevor Lawrence here, no more Evan Ingram. I don't think that they have much more faith in Travis Etienne. This is a team that, not long ago just absolutely unloaded on free agents, but it's also a team that's very ambiguous. Like, you don't really know is Trevor Lawrence a franchise quarterback? Is he really a number one overall pick? Tell me a little bit about this matchup, because this is a place where the Colts just seem to, no matter who the quarterback is, man, they just cannot freaking get it done in Jacksonville.
Yeah, this is curse number 2 on the schedule, right? We had the opening win that they can't get, and they can't get the win at Jacksonville, right? So that's right. You almost feel stupid projecting it to be a win against the Jaguars here, just because you're in Jacksonville, and I don't expect the Colts to sweep them this season. So I think Trevor Lawrence is going to play better with Liam Cohen as the head coach. I think he's always been a better quarterback than really how he's produced against the Colts in years past. So I think you'll actually get to see a better side of him than the Colts have recently. Travis Hunter, I'm still not sure how they're going to be utilizing him, but he will be a problem on one side of the ball or the other for the Colts, I'm sure. So, I think this is going to be closer. I think the Colts should come away with the win, but we're at Jacksonville. And I think until they prove me wrong, I'm going to go with a loss here at Jacksonville as well.
So I've got them breaking the curse. I've got them winning in Jacksonville. I did still have them losing that opening game, but there's just something, I don't know, man. We'll have to see with a first-time offensive head coach like Liam Cohen. I think that, Trevor Lawrence has shown a propensity to dice up this Colts defense, just plain and simple, right? Like, he's done a great job against the Colts, but I really do like, I don't know, man. We'll have to see, but I like their chances in this one just because they've made the right additions on the roster, and I do think Anarumo is going to bring the best out of this defense. But again, if we're comparing it to Gus Bradley, that isn't really too much of an upgrade. So, all right, Paul Wilson bringing it in here. If either one of you end up with the Colts in the playoffs, you should have to sing "This Is Our Colts." This is our team. We bleed blue. That song is so bad. From I believe that's Seth Erskines or Erskines. I can't remember his name, but it made Pat McAfee show basically a national star now because of
Fan of the
his
year.
fan of the year, baby. So the legend himself. We'll sing it if either one of us has the Colts making the playoffs and they don't. But yeah, so we're kind of getting to the end of the schedule here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more games. We'll kind of rattle these off. The next one at Seattle, one of the most daunting places to play in the entire NFL. Now you've got Sam Darnold. You don't have Lockett. You don't have DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
You do still have a good football team, though. Like, I mean, they're not a bad football team. What are your thoughts on this matchup? I mean, Sam Darnold definitely doesn't have the weapons that Geno Smith did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious, man. I'm not 100% sure. As soon as I saw this, I was like, it should be a win, right? And then you're just looking at the depth chart a little bit more. Cooper Kupp, Valdez Scantling just kind of is what he is, I guess. Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'd like Torrey Horton. He's a 5th-round receiver, though, so I'm not going to weigh in too much on him. I just liked that selection that they got there. Gray Zabel's going to be starting at guard to solidify some of that offensive line. And it just all depends on Sam Darnold and if the facade slips away or if he's actually what he proved to be last year. I think that's going to be all up in the air. And who knows? I mean, you've got Jalen Milroe on the team also. Maybe he's taken some snaps that'll make things a little bit more interesting for you. I like Kenneth Walker. I like a lot of their team. Ernest Jones at linebacker. I like Tariq Woolen, obviously Kobe Bryant, Devin Witherspoon. I like their secondary a lot. So I don't know. Tell me what you think about it while I go back and forth in my head of whether this is a win or whether it's a loss.
I saw this one and I was like, I mean, they also have DeMarcus Lawrence now. I mean, they've got Ernest Jones the fourth. I thought that was a steal. They do have Nick Emmanwori, which just awesome. Devin Witherspoon. I mean, they've got Byron Murphy. They've got some guys on that defense, and I'm going with the Seahawks here.
Okay.
I think that it's a very, very difficult place to play. If you make even so much as one mistake, those fans will make your life a living hell in the 12th man. And this is one of those games. I mean, Darnold did have Jordan Addison. He had T.J. Hawkinson. He had I can't remember Aaron Jones. You had Justin Jefferson last season when they beat the Colts. But man, I know he doesn't have those types of weapons, but I just don't see them winning this game.
Yeah. Yeah, Leonard Williams I like a lot also. I think the big strength of that Seattle defense right now is in the secondary though, and I think that kind of plays to the Colts pretty well, where they're not super worried. They'll take some shots deep, I guess. Maybe they have Reek Woolen covering. I don't know who you cover. If you have him cover Alec Pierce just to try to stave off some of those deep threats. I've gone back and forth. I'm going to give them the win on this one. I think this is the one where it looks like on paper they should probably lose, but I'm going to go the opposite direction because there's every year that a game goes the opposite of how you think multiple times a year usually. But in this prediction, I'll go with this being the one that they pull out here on the road in Seattle.
Nice. Well, this next one you're staying right there in the division, and of course they play the entire NFC West. Yeah. And that is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I do not in any way, shape, or form like this matchup for the Colts.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just don't. I think that the 49ers they're a good football team, and I think Kyle Shanahan, until proven otherwise, is one of the top coaches in this league. What are your thoughts on this one? It is when they're going to be using their Indiana Knights blue jerseys, black helmets, and this is their primetime game, which they've shown they haven't done very well in primetime.
Yeah, and they just got the one. I think that's a good point also. They have not done well in primetime games in the past. No. But regardless, I think this is a matchup that's really scary for them, right? I think normally you'd be excited about if they were to play last year, their ability to run it up the middle on what was a weak defensive line for the 49ers last season. They go out, they draft Mikael Williams in the first, they draft Alfred Collins in the second, who's a mountain of a man, draft CJ West in the fourth. There was a clear the direction there by the front office in San Francisco to make that part of their defense better, get rid of that floor, and finally restock some of that defensive line degradation that's been happening honestly ever since the DeForest Buckner trade. So trying to get back to that, I think, yeah, and then the offense is going to run like a well-oiled machine, like it has Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, all these guys. And again, you're playing them at week 16, where you're going to have some challenges with the depth on your unit also. So I think this is a bad time to play the 49ers. I think it's a bad year to play the 49ers. So I'm going to have it. The Colts getting the L on this one.
Yeah, I have them losing this one potentially by more than like 14 points. It's just Nick Bosa is an absolute. He's an absolutely horrifying matchup for anybody that, and they probably will move him around. And then you've got Fred Warner. All right, I mean, you've got a defense that every single season seems to bring the pain. And while you don't have Debo Samuel, I'll just come out and say it. I think Debo Samuel. I think he's overrated. As far as a receiver, as an offensive weapon, sure, but I don't really think that the 49ers are losing an insane amount of firepower just because they don't have Debo Samuel. So we'll go ahead and get to the CFO, the one and only, the Patrick Rye, 2025 Colts, 9-8 season, missed the playoffs by a game. They snagged the 16th overall pick after, by the way, having 15th and then 14th.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones is a Pro Bowl alternate. Oh, put money on it. Misery continues. So if anybody was ever in any way, shape, or form curious about Patrick Rye's thoughts on the current Colts regime, this is a synopsis of the way that he feels. Noah, what do you think about that comment there? Not only is it funny, but it very well could become true.
Yeah, literally every part of that comment is just a reflection of what's happened the past few years. Daniel Jones going on the Gardner Minshew arc and getting the Pro Bowl alternate.
And he shouldn't be. He shouldn't even be one. It's
16th overall pick. You mentioned 14th and 15th in the years before, 9-8. Very familiar record looking for the Colts. And I mean, we're 2 games out, right? We still have 2 division games that we have to predict here for the Colts schedule. But as of right now, you've got them sitting at 8-7, and I've got them sitting at 7-8. So I feel like both of us feel pretty similarly to what Patrick threw out here. The Daniel Jones thing maybe is the most controversial part of it. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, in terms of record, just based on what me and Drake have thrown out, I think Patrick, you and I and Drake are all kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, this team has been as subpar or as on par. And you know what? Just to voice this real quick before we finish up this episode, Steichen started 9-8, then he went 8-9. Right now, Shane Steichen and Anthony Richardson are 17-17. You cannot get more boring and average than that. Okay, so that's where the Colts, that pretty much sums up everything. But this next one, we finish with division games. This one's Jacksonville at home. Trevor Lawrence, meeting number 2. Colts, yeah. I've got them as 4-0 going into this game in the division. What are your thoughts on this matchup? Because now they got to come to Indianapolis, and whether or not they break the streak or the curse in Jacksonville, it is good because these last games are going to be crucial if they want to make a playoff push.
Yeah, you do have them at 4-0 in the division, right?
I do.
Coming in here into 2 big games. I think I've got them at 2-2 here in the division. A loss to the Texans and the Jags.
And the Jags.
They've both.
At Texans, yeah.
I don't think the Colts are getting swept by the Jags. I think it's more likely they sweep the Jags than they get swept by them. So I'll have them do the 1-1 split here. The home game in Jacksonville, you're not dealing with that away at Jacksonville curse. I think the better team's going to win here, and I think the Colts are going to pull it back to 500. Unfortunately for the Colts, you're sitting here in week 17. Based on my prediction, they're just going up to 8-8. So best case scenario, you're looking at that 9-8, which maybe it squeaks you into the playoffs based on how the AFC South turns out. We don't know how Houston and Jacksonville is going to look against the rest of the NFL. But yeah, it'll put you in a very similar situation. You're sitting at 7-8. You do win that week 17 game. But I imagine a lot of fans are going to be sitting there thinking too little too late at this point.
Yeah, so I've got them winning this game too to go to 9-7, and it sounds a little unrealistic, but I'm not. I don't know. There's just something about the Jaguars, man. They just seem like a team that's falling backwards. They seem like a team that's going in the wrong direction again. Even though they've got a new coach, even though they've got Trevor Lawrence, it just feels like a team that is not progressing. But we'll see what Liam Cohen does. But I've got them winning this one, 9-7, 5-0 in the division. And of course, now we are at, as always, it just seems like this game. Just a couple years ago, you were a Tyler Goodson catch away from potentially making the
Yep.
playoffs. So there was that. But this is so fitting that the Colts are 9-7 with me, 8-8 with you. This is Houston at Houston. This is at NRG.
Yeah.
And typically now, it's not like it used to be. These fans bring it for Houston. They really support their squad. What are your thoughts on this one here? Because at this point, who the hell knows who's under center for the Colts, right?
Yeah.
We're assuming Richardson though for this episode.
Yeah. A lot of things could happen throughout the season just based off of the scenarios that we're playing out. Though I was sitting there, the Colts just pulled back to 8-8, week 17 with a win over the Jags. I feel like that's not enough. You go into week 18 playing the Texans, knowing you're out of it. I think morale's going to be low at that point. If you're sitting at 8-8 going into the last game of the season, the last game of Chris Ballard's 8th season with the Colts, more of the same. I think morale's going to be at an all-time low. I think fan disappointment's going to be even more so than it was last year. I think you're going to have a lot to overcome there in that Week 18 game against the Texans, who are going to have some playoff seeding to play for at the very least, according to my prediction here. So I think, they're gonna take the L here, close out the season with a little whimper, not getting enough done to get into the playoffs. Once again, sitting at 8-9, which is a really ugly record after seeing the past few years that you've had. I think Patrick's comment nailed it earlier. Just a lot of the same thing, a lot of mediocrity, just in terms of results at least. So I think they're taking the L here, going 8-9 for the entire season.
And just to correct you, and it's actually horrifying because I wish that your comment was accurate. This is Chris Ballard's ninth season. Ninth season. That is unprecedented for a team that has one playoff win. But I've got them losing this one to the Houston Texans to finish 9-8. Now they finish 5-1 in the division. Now, depending on. So I think that the Colts squeak into the playoffs and secure their first AFC South title.
All right.
Now, I do see them as an early exit. I don't know if that would even save Shane Steichen's job. But I will tell you right now, if they fall into your prediction, it's over for Ballard. It's over for Richardson. It's over for Steichen. Probably multiple people. But I think that you tear that down to the studs. If they finish 8-9, and I think it was 2-4 in the division, like you said.
Yeah, it was not good.
That's fire. That's a fire sale. That's a fire sale.
3-3 in the division, which not going to be enough to get you there. That 5-1 in your division, your prediction makes things a lot more interesting when you're sitting there at 9-8. Normally, in any other division, you'd say 9-8 might be a wild card if you're lucky. You're sitting there at 9-8, and you're like, you're 5-1 in the division. That's the tiebreaker. Going over I'm assuming the Houston Texans. You also would have them being 9-8. So that week 18, in terms of what your prediction was laying out, that's a heavy game. That's game the only one on the Colts schedule that does not have a date and time set at this point. So that would definitely at that point be a flex game in prime time for the AFC South title. Maybe that works against the Colts, though. You did mention earlier they have not performed well in prime time games, so maybe that kind of swings it against them. If they're playing with everything on the line there in week 18, man, I hope we get to that point so we get an exciting game there.
Yeah, that would honestly be because I remember I thought I was going to pass out when Minshew threw the pass, and then I almost passed out when Goodson dropped it.
I think that's one of those. That's one of those plays. I think every Colts fan that's been paying attention knows exactly where they were at that exact moment. I was in a bar in Cleveland watching the game, sitting on the side of a pool table with a bunch of friends around me. As soon as he dropped it, I went dead silent. I didn't talk to anybody for probably the next 45 minutes as we drove home. So
Yeah, I was hanging out with the then pregnant mother of my child, and I remember she was like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I literally was just lying on the floor, staring straight at the ceiling. So I was not happy. But Paul, we got to get to your comment here before we wrap up the show. I have 4 to 6 wins. Oh, we won 4 straight games against the Titans, so I see that streak ending also. I hate it, but when you have 2 to 3 of the worst statistical QBs in the NFL, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
That's not a lie. I mean, quarterback is everything. It's everything, and the Colts right now are as ambiguous as the only other team that I can say are the Steelers.
Yeah.
And
It's
you still know what you have there. So
yeah. It's an interesting situation where the Colts are at, two of the worst statistical quarterbacks in the league, and yet there's still like some sort of metered optimism there. Where you're thinking, hey, maybe Daniel Jones takes the next step. Hey, maybe Anthony Richardson. Both of them are guys who have proven to not be the guy in the past.
exactly,
But
yeah.
maybe you're like, at least with those guys, like you're sitting there with the Steelers situation. You're looking at Mason Rudolph. Like, there's not a lot of hope that he could turn into the guy. I think the Colts are in a little bit different situation where, yeah, the two guys they have been flat out poor, like in disappointing in the first years of their career. Daniel Jones probably a little bit more successful than Anthony Richardson, but still,
Which is crazy.
yeah, still with both of those guys though, you're sitting there like maybe. I mean, you see the Sam Darnold arc, you see Baker Mayfield, you're like maybe that's something that Daniel Jones could turn into, and then you're still just kind of sitting on the potential that you saw in Anthony Richardson that made you take him fourth overall, and how that's not all dried up at this point, but you're running a little bit thin on optimism, but you still have it for both those guys. I think that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and to wrap up the show, we have Patrick. You put this in a super chat, so I have to say it. Worst case scenario: Richardson starts the season with a 55.5 or a 55% completion percentage. Colts are 3-2, and he tears his ACL. So we have another year of maybe he's the guy. Give him another year to see. At the end of the day, man, that is probably the biggest question mark about Richardson. It's not can he improve his accuracy. It's not can he become a starting quarterback. It's can he stay healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, he still missed 6 freaking games last season. Like, that is so many games to miss. And then before that, he missed 13.
Yeah.
He's played 15 out of 34. Um, and last year was even worse because he tapped out of one game. He threw more picks than touchdowns. I mean, so this is a year where Richardson, the Colts have given him, in a way, a little bit more of a leash than, I mean, even the Panthers gave to Bryce Young.
Yeah, I think this scenario that Patrick lays out, I think is
It could happen. That's
It could
the sad
happen.
part.
I would say that there's some things going against it in the Colts, and that Chris Ballard, the first thing that he said, he didn't mention anything about his inaccuracy or his inconsistency or work ethic or anything like that. He mentioned his health. Like that's already very, very much on the Colts radar, with Chris Ballard and probably Shane Steichen, I'm sure, from the top down. That's probably their primary concern with Anthony Richardson. So even if you do get some good flashes with him, they go 3-2, and he looks kind of like what he did at the beginning of his rookie season, and he's making some of those big splash plays. I still think if he goes down with an injury and misses significant time, I mean that there's a whole butterfly effect that goes on from there, and what happens with Chris Ballard. But if Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, this staff, were to still remain with the Indianapolis Colts, and you have that situation play out with Anthony Richardson, I do think they would have enough data on him to know that they can't rely on him going forward. I think there would be some fans for sure that would say maybe he's the guy, give him another year to see. I think within the Colts organization, they would know it's time to move on though.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now that would suck because if he either bombs, gets hurt, can't play more than like 13, 14 games, or they just suck, he will go down as one of the biggest busts in recent memory. I mean, it's unfortunate, but we'll have to see because he's got all the pressure on his shoulders. But that's our show, guys. We're already at an hour and 3 minutes. Like the Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. As always, follow Indianapolis Colts on SI. And then on X, we're at Colts on _SI. So don't forget to follow us there, but also subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the bell to turn on the noties. If you want to listen to the Horseshoe Huddle podcast, excellent news is you can subscribe to us everywhere on Apple, on Spotify, wherever else you listen to podcasts, or you digest our information and take it, whatever. I definitely think that these are realistic ways that it could pan out. Maybe my divisional record is a little bit too rose-colored glasses type of thing. But as always, people, we really appreciate it. Please enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And we will be seeing all of you again right here on Monday to talk more Colts football. Take care.